So we're live on Facebook. Of course, you know, we never know when it actually goes live. It just, here we are.
Surprise!
Yeah. So I've gotten used to it, though. You know, I don't talk about things I shouldn't be talking about, inappropriate things.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
No.
today, Doc, we all want to wish you a happy birthday. I hope you have a great day.
One more rotation around the sun, I guess, huh?
Yep. And you guys can all give him a little happy birthday down there in the comments.
Yeah. Send the gifts. I'll post my address down below.
I knew you would do that.
No, you know what? I have everything that I need, and the stuff that I don't need, I don't sit around and wish for it on my birthday or Christmas or anything like that. I just go buy it. Yeah.
That's nice.
And that's not very much. I mean, you know, seriously, it's not very much. I don't need that much. So
hey, the most important thing to have in the world is love and health.
Isn't that the truth?
Yes.
And you know, I was just talking to a friend of mine. She's her birthday's here in a month, and her husband's birthday is in May, and we were talking about how, you know, we've been friends since we were in 3rd grade.
Nice.
So that's a long time. I mean, that's since we were 8 years old, right? So that's 51 years.
That's a long time.
But you think about all the stuff, all the changes that we've seen, Andrea. I mean, remember did you watch Star Trek? Were you a Trekkie at all? Maybe not. Your brother was, I'm guessing. No, your brother wasn't either?
No Trekkies here.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, Dr. McCoy, he had that little thing that he'd put it on your neck, and it'd make those funny noises, and all of a sudden a dead person would come back alive, or it would heal up wounds. You know, they'd get hit by the phasers, and it would heal them up. I mean, that stuff is all coming, Andrea. It's I mean, it's really
already here. We just don't have it yet.
We just
That's
don't
the
have
cool
it.
part. Yep.
Yes, all that science, sci-fi movies and stuff like that. When you watch that stuff, I mean, by the time they put it in the movie, it well, I don't know if it's created, but it's a thought, and somebody is thinking about it, and yeah, and the Jetsons will have little cars to buzz around, and we'll be able to you know, broadcast ourselves somewhere, you know, with a transporter. I mean, it's coming, Andrea. I'm excited.
I am too. Super excited.
You know? Yeah, and we'll have little bots that we can inject into our bloodstream, and it'll go in there and make little repairs on valves and hearts, and
we won't even need that. We won't even need that.
Oh, I think we'll need that for a while until they move ahead and leave it further than that. But you know, I just love the idea of it. So I keep telling people, just stay in shape, stay healthy enough that when they stay alive, so that when it comes around, you're there to enjoy it.
That's right.
You know, and you figure, you know, in 11 years I'll be 70. You know, and man, I'll tell you what. Back when I was in my 20s, I thought, holy cow.
Well, chronologically, you will be 70.
Yeah, but back when I was in my 20s, I used to think, holy cow, I'm not going to make it to the age of 35.
Really? You were living the hard life?
Oh, man, I was doing some crazy, just, you know, I was having fun. And you know, well, you know, I broke my back 4 months ago, and in December. And I fell and I broke my back on the ice, and you know, and it was an accident. It wasn't something that I planned on doing, and it wasn't something that, you know, of course you know, accident you can avoid all of them. I could have stayed inside, but you know, then my dog would have been outside. But you know, he got caught, and I broke my back, and I went and saw the neurosurgeon last Thursday.
Yep.
On the 1st of April, and she looked at my X-rays and she said, "Holy cow, you healed up fast." You know,
well, you give your body the right nutrients, it can work.
She's exactly, and that's what I thought we'd talk a little bit about today. And I said, hey, pull up the X-rays from 15 years ago. Let's look at the X-rays from my motorcycle accident, because that was the hospital that I went to. That was the hospital that the ambulance took me to, and I'd never seen those X-rays before.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And she pulled up the x-ray and she's looking at it. She said, holy cow. She said, your tibia really looks bad. She said, I'm surprised that you can even walk. I said, well, I said, I'm walking and I really don't even have any pain. And I said, that's not my tibia. It was my femur.
Ouch.
Yeah. But the bone was so busted up, Andrea, that a neurosurgeon couldn't even recognize it as the bone that it was.
Yeah. How about
That's how
that?
busted. Yeah, because when I woke up in the hospital in Minneapolis 3 days later, you know, they told me they said my leg was so busted up, it was just, I mean, there was no way they could salvage it. But here I
Right.
am. I went for a
Yep.
5-mile walk yesterday with the dogs.
It's amazing what you can do if you are proactive with your body.
Yeah. So, Andrea, as we look at all these different things, you know, I mean, we got to look at cellular health. We got to look at, you know, neural health and all these different things. I sent you a couple of things that I wanted you to look at, just because I thought we could talk about them. But the first one I'm going to bring up is this photo right here. Can you see that?
Let me get really close. Yeah, I saw that in my email, so I pretty much know
Okay.
what it says.
Yeah. So it says aging is a predominant risk factor for most common chronic diseases that limit the health span. Aging is the predominant risk factor for most common chronic diseases that limit the health span. So aging isn't a disease, right?
No, they don't call it a disease yet.
Right, but it's a risk factor for the most common chronic diseases. So if we break that title down and we look at the chronic diseases that limit your health span, and what's the health span? How did we define health span?
Well, it's how long you're healthy, not how long you live.
That's right, because who cares if you live to be 195 years old, but you spend the last 100 years not even knowing who you are?
Exactly.
You know, so these statistics, it comes from the United States Vital Statistics, and I know this goes back. This is from 1997, but things really haven't changed. You know, the only thing we could add in there is the viral thing, that the pandemic that moved into number 3rd place. But you look at heart disease. Heart disease is still the number 1 killer. I guess there was 1 year, 2 years ago, where cancer overtook heart disease as the number 1 killer.
Yeah, it's got all the normal characters in there.
Yeah. So I'll enlarge that just a little bit more. So heart disease, if you take a look at it, you know, as you get older, your risk of having heart disease, it's pretty much linearly, it's a direct relationship to age. It goes up, right? But you notice
a person's risk, not mine. A person's.
Well, but I mean, people. I mean, I'm not talking to you specifically. I'm talking to the audience.
I know, but we have to use our words correctly.
So look at cancer, though. Look at what cancer does. If you can make it to age of 75 and beat cancer, your risk of dying from cancer actually goes down. You see that?
Yeah, I can't see the lines very well.
Okay, so the
Is
graph.
that the red one? Yeah, I see it kind of flat lines.
Yep, the red one goes down. The purple one, strokes, that one is pretty much linear. It doesn't change much. I mean, as you get older, your risk of having a stroke goes up. You look at emphysema. Emphysema actually about the same age, 75 years old. Your risk of dying from emphysema goes down. Pneumonia goes up slightly as you get older. Diabetes actually stays about the same, goes down a little bit as you get older. Accidents, your risk of dying from an accident actually goes up after the age of 75. Your risk of kidney disease kind of stays linear, and your risk of Alzheimer's goes up after about the age of 55. So those are all risk factors, and it really hasn't changed over the last. I mean, again, this is from statistics from 1997. It was reported in the Millbank Quarterly in 2002, and it really hasn't changed. Do you find that interesting?
Oh, I just think that's pretty normal.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's look at another picture here that I brought up. So these are the 9 hallmarks of aging.
I can't read them.
Oh, okay. I'll read them to you. So the first one talks about genomic instability.
Genomic instability. What is that?
So genomic instability, Andrea, is the fact that 60,000 times a day, I looked the number up this morning so that I was accurate, approximately 60,000 times a day, your DNA gets hit with radiation, it gets hit with stress, it gets hit with chemicals, and it alters your DNA. And when it alters your DNA, it causes your DNA to react in an abnormal fashion. So it can cause diseases like amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which is Lou Gehrig's disease. It can cause, other diseases like that, multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's, right? It's an alteration of your DNA. And so you and I have talked a lot about things that we can do to prevent that from happening, haven't we? Did I lose you? Am I still here? Hello? Anyhow, so, genomic instability. So your DNA gets bombarded with radiation. It gets bombarded with toxic stress. It gets bombarded with emotional stress. All these different things all the time. And so, what can we do to help that? Well, number one, we want to get rid of those cells that have been damaged, and that's called senescence. So we remove them with senolytic activators. We've got a great product. It's called Stemolytic, and you take that every other night. And what it does, it basically bombs out these senescent cells, and then it cleans up the mess. So it's got both factors in it. But the other thing that we have that I really like is it's a product called Eternity, and Eternity has an ingredient called resveratrol, and resveratrol really hit the major news about 20 years ago because they realized that this extract from red grapes, from red grape seed, was from grape skin. They figured out that this ingredient called resveratrol could repair the damaged DNA through something called the sirtuin genes. Andrea, are you back with us? Andrea? Andrea? Are you there? Hang on one second, everyone. No, she is gone. She is gone. So I'll just keep talking, I guess. That's what I'll do. So so that's what we can do for genomic instability. And then let's talk about telomere attrition. So telomeres are the part of your chromosome that gives your cell kind of like an expiration date. When you go buy a head of lettuce at the grocery store, it's got an expiration date stamped on the package, and yeah, you can eat that lettuce after the expiration date. Chances are it's gonna have some old kind of shriveled up lettuce around the outside, but I mean, it's still gonna be good for a while. Well, in your body, your cells have an expiration date just like that, and after a while, they start to shrivel up, and that tells your cell that it's time to die. It's time to get out of there, and so what they've discovered, there's the Nobel Prize in 2009 was given, so about 12 years ago, was given to a group of scientists because they discovered that they could actually reverse that. they could add more years onto the telomere. And they've been working on a medication. They've been working on a drug ever since. And I don't know how they're coming on that, but what they found is that there were some natural products, and kind of the gold standard. What they use as the gold standard is an ingredient that comes from a plant from China called astragaloside, astragalus, and cycloastragalosides are the ingredients. And I remember when I was talking to my friend Tom Senior about it, he said that there's so very little of this actual cycloastragalus that it sells for $80,000 per kilo. I mean, think about that. That's 2.5 pounds, $80,000 for 2.5 pounds for a kilo of this extract. And so if you have a room full of this plant of astragalus, it yields about 1 kilo. And so you don't get very much for your buck. So when you see a lot of companies out there coming out with the kind of the Me Too product, the Us Too, we have that too type of product. They use the whole astragalus plant. They just grind it up and throw it in there. So you're getting the whole thing. And some plants you want that, but with astragalus you want the active. And so you're going to find that you don't need very much of it, very little actually. And but it's quite spendy. So people they'll see the product, they'll see TSX on our product list, and they go, "Oh wow, that's a $150 product," and that's only for 30 capsules. So that's $5 a capsule, right? I take 3 a day. And and people say, "Well, why do you do that?" Well, I trust the science. The science on it says that it can rebuild those telomeres. And like Andrea and I were talking about before I started going over these photos that I'm sharing, you want to do as much as you can to keep your body healthy, so that when the time comes, that science has evolved, and science is coming up with things that we can use to stay healthier and to rebuild, like the old Star Trek movies and Star Trek shows. We want to keep ourselves as healthy as we can, and so that's why I do that. But if you look at some of the other companies that are out there, the next best product, and I'll just call it that. I won't tell you what it is, just because I don't like talking about other people's products. I mean, it's a good product, but it's about 30% of the strength of ours, and it's about 3 times the cost. So you're spending over $450 for a product that's weaker than ours. You'd have to take 3 of those capsules, so you'd have to spend over $1,000 to get the same as what you're getting from a $150 product that we have over here. So fixing the telomeres. Epigenetic alterations. And what is that? Epigenetic alteration. Well, we all have genetics. Our genetics. We hundreds of years ago, your great grandparents got together, and they had your great grandparents, and then your great grandparents had your great grandparents, and then they had your grandparents, and then they had your parents. And every time that they got together, there was a mixing. It was like mixing up a cake mix, and it was a mixing of the different genetics. And so by the time that you're born, you've inherited the different genetics. I mean, from different traits from different parts of your family history. And my son and I were looking at his genetic code the other day. He had his tested, and we were looking at it and some different things. But if you test his brother, it's not the same, because the way that the mix, I mean, the cake mix isn't exactly the same from time to time. There might be just a little bit more sugar, maybe another egg or whatever. And so it's just a little bit different. And so the epigenetics is how your genetics interact with your environment. And so I'm going to use my own, for example. I've gotten certain genetics that say that I have a very low risk for Alzheimer's and dementia, very low risk. But everybody has just a little bit of a genetic code that if you do something wrong, it's actually going to increase your risk. So even though I have a very low risk of getting the disease based on my genetics, I have a slight risk. We all do. And so if I was a heavy smoker, if I was a heavy drinker, for example, if I was around diesel fumes, those are the things that in my environment that I stay away from, because I know that it doesn't mix well with my genetics. That's epigenetics. It's how does your genetics interact with your environment. And so, and you can guess, you can say, well, grandpa died from this, and therefore, but why not be more accurate? And you can get these tests run now. I use a company out of Australia. I actually like them because I like their report. It's called Smart DNA, and I think it's about with the dollar exchange right now, the U.S. dollar compared to the Australian dollar, it's about $300, maybe $350 to get it tested, and then you get it like an owner's manual, because you know what your genetics are. Loss of proteostasis, and what that is that when your body doesn't have the right protein mix, maybe you're not getting enough in your diet. What's happening is it doesn't process those proteins properly, and it can lead to certain diseases. It can lead to disease and aging. But that's another one of the hallmarks of aging. Deregulated nutrient sensing. And so according to Harvard, major university medical studies, they say that we all have certain nutritional deficiencies. They tested, I don't remember how many years ago, I remember I was reading a study that, and it may not have been Harvard, this study, that I don't remember, but they tested a group of people, I think it was like, 500 people, and they looked for nutritional deficiencies, and they said, okay, hey, patient A, you're missing this and this and this. You need to bump that up. And then they came back and they retested them, and 5 years later they found out that they were still missing key nutrients. And so we're all missing key nutrients. I mean, let's just say we're all missing. I think it's like 97% of us are missing key nutrients. So if you're part of the 3%, hey, if you take a few that you don't need, whatever, you're not gonna overtake things, and so we have a problem in the world, really, that we have a lot of processed foods. Back 40, 50 years ago, they decided that, hey, we have to produce a lot of food to feed the world, and they didn't worry about nutritional status of the food. They just worried about getting food. Um, and so a lot of the food that we have today doesn't have the nutritional balance that it used to have. And so that's why we have to take a good multivitamin. And I go beyond a multivitamin, because I think that multivitamin, you just can't put everything in there. So with Sizzle, we have Spectrum Max. It's got 74 trace minerals. It's got 40 antioxidants, and it's been designed to work with Encompass 360. And Encompass 360 is our multiple vitamin. And so the two of them together, I think they really give you a good baseline, even beyond the baseline. And then we start talking about mitochondrial dysfunction. And folks, I know a lot of you don't know what the mitochondria is, but think of it like the nuclear power plant of your cell. It's what energizes the cell. It keeps it going. And the problem with the mitochondria is that the DNA, the chromosome of the mitochondria, is affected by stress. It's affected by stress more than other DNA, than other chromosomes, and so it gets damaged. And they've shown that with different things like sludge, the lipofuscin, and the different advanced glycated end products. What it does is it's sludge in that power plant. Think about taking and dumping in some old oil in your car engine, right? And that's what happens when you get this advanced glycated end products. It's what happens when you get this lipofusion, and it just slows down. You can't, the crankshaft's not going to turn as good. The pistons are going to get scored, and so we have a product called the AGE pill, the AGE pill. It removes those glycated end products. It removes that lipofusion, and it fires up the mitochondria, right? And this gives your body energy. It gives your body the energy that it needs to repair itself. So it really works good. And then we get into what's called cellular senescence. And this is really something that hit the market about 3 years ago. It's April, 3 years ago, that I started reading a lot about senescence. And I actually started taking some raw ingredients that I read about. And Tom Senior and I were talking. That was April, and Tom Senior and I were talking, and he says, yeah, I'm coming out with a new product. And I said, does it have anything to do with senescence? And he said, yeah. He said, what do you know about that? And we started talking about it. And I said, well, I said Mayo Clinic is doing some studies, and they're researching a chemotherapy drug called dasatinib, and they're mixing it with a couple of natural ingredients, quercetin and an extract from black tea. And so I said, I looked up where did they get the research on it, and they found out that it was a extract from strawberries called ficitin, and well, you can imagine that you have to eat an awful lot of strawberries to get enough of the ficitin to actually make a difference. And so there just wasn't a lot of the stuff on the market. I mean, who has a active ingredient from strawberries, right? I mean, and you're not going to eat enough strawberry shortcake to get enough ficitin. And so I started taking that ingredient, and then last year, about 14 months ago, Tom came out with Lytics, and Lytics uses 8 senolytic activators. And what these do is they remove these senescent cells. And what is a senescent cell? Well, let's go back in this chart, right? So you have the genomic instability, which alters the DNA, and it causes the cell to be damaged, and the DNA is damaged, and that causes the normally the immune system should knock that out of there. But what happens is that when you have a senescent cell, it's figured out how to bypass the immune system, and the immune system doesn't recognize it as an abnormal cell. And so it sits there, and they used to think, like I was looking up on some stuff this morning, and they used to think that it would sit there and it wouldn't cause any problems. It would just kind of be in the background. What they found was that senescent cells are actually worse than that, because what they are is they're kind of like rioters. Last summer we had rioting here in the United States, and they try and get you, let's get everybody fired up. Let's go cause some riots. Let's go break some windows. Let's go burn some buildings. And you just get into the heat of the moment, and that's what senescent cells do to healthy cells. And so now all of a sudden they can make a healthy cell switch into a non-healthy cell. And they found that it's a cause of many kinds of cancer. It causes Alzheimer's. It causes heart disease. It causes type 2 diabetes. It causes gray hair. I mean, just a lot of the aging process. And so Aubrey De Grey, one of the major iconic figures in aging, he looks like Father Time, the big long gray beard. He said to Tom Senior at a World Congress of Stem Cell Therapy, he told me, he said, yeah, that's kind of the next frontier. He said that's going to be one of the toughest ones. And what he didn't know is that Tom had already been working on a product, and just 6 months later it would be on the market. And that's what we have. We have Lytics, and it's the most powerful senolytic compound on the market that I know of. Of course, the drug companies want to come out with a drug. And I've done the research on it. If you do some research on Mayo Clinic and some of the other research hospitals, they're studying this chemotherapy. The problem with it is that it's too harsh. it's too harsh for the body. You know, it's gonna damage healthy cells at the same time that it takes out these senescent cells, and so it works, but there's some collateral damage with it, where if you're using an ingredient from strawberries, ficitin, right, and you're using an ingredient from onions, and you're using an ingredient from apples, and all these different things, there's going to be a lot less chance of having the collateral damage, and so that's what we got. And I've been taking that now for a year, and I'd actually been taking the other ingredients for about 2 years, and so I'm a little bit ahead of the game of where a lot of people are, and it's really cool. Stem cell exhaustion. So they say that by the time you get into your 40s, 50s, I mean, you've lost 50% of your stem cell function. I mean, and that's pretty significant. When you get into your 80s, it's down around 80%, 90%. And stem cells are the replacement cells. If I've got a bad cell in my kidney, for example, a stem cell comes in there and says, "Hey, we're going to replace you." If you don't have good stem cell function, that's not going to work. And so going back and talking about all these other different things, the mitochondrial dysfunction, the genomic instability, the telomere attrition, it's all interrelated, right? So these things all work together. So TSX, the H pill, resveratrol, stemolitics, they all fit in there. And you take out the old damaged stem cell. And it's amazing how the human body works. If the human body says, "Hey, we got an empty seat. Who wants to come down? Come on, rock and roll. Let's put a new one in there." And so that's what your body does. And so all these things kind of work to make that stem cell work. And then we go down to the last one of the 9 hallmarks of aging, which is altered intercellular communication. And all of your cells have to talk to each other. You know, your liver cells got to tell your brain, "Hey, do some more of this." Your brain's got to tell your liver, "Hey, look, we've got too much cholesterol, reduce the cholesterol." And so they all work together. And if that message is wrong, nothing can work right. And I mean, so think of it like having you're having a conversation on your cell phone with your son or your daughter, and you're talking to them. All of a sudden, they get in an area where there's poor satellite coverage, and they don't have very good cell coverage. All of a sudden, all you're hearing is, and I do that pretty good, don't I? And you want to hear that one more time? And so you start having poor reception. And if your brain is trying to tell your liver, "Hey, we need less cholesterol," but the signal isn't getting there, so your liver's going to keep producing cholesterol. I mean, you can see where there's a problem with that. And so they're working with different things to make sure that your communication is proper. And they found that even poor gut health can cause issues there. They found that your digestive system communicates directly with the brain. So everything is important. You can't just say that, "Hey, I'm going to take some more omega-3 and that's gonna make everything better." Well, it doesn't work like that, right? You gotta look at the omega-3s, and then you gotta look at the branched chain amino acids. A lot of research on that. That's our RIPT product that tells your body that you need to make new muscle. They found that as you age, one of the hallmarks of aging is that your communication to make new muscle starts to go down. And so it's you got to have the right message. And so we're going to see in the future that you're going to see a lot of product designed around messaging, sending the right message. Hey, telling the body, decrease the inflammation. And you can do that by taking more omega-3s, less omega-6s. You can tell your body, "Hey, build more muscle, more lean muscle." And that has to do with branched chain amino acids. And you can have altered communication between your gut and your brain, that tells your brain to stay healthy, feel good today. Hey, it's your birthday, you know, have a good time. But if your bacteria in your gut isn't having a good time, you're not going to have a good time. And so anyhow, that's what I thought I'd cover today. You know, I made another trip around the sun, and I thought, you know, last week I went and saw my doctor, and she said that I'm getting healthier. You know, from December till now, till April, I'd gotten healthier, and I'm not going to go through all the different diagnostic tests that she did, but yeah, so I'm pretty happy with that, and so folks, stay young, stay healthy. You know, keep yourself going, keep yourself healthy for the next couple of years. My prediction, based on what I've read, is in the next decade or two, we're going to see a lot of really good science out there that's going to change our lives. They're saying that a newborn baby born today has a 50% chance of living to be 150 years old. Think about that. If you have a baby today, if you have a grandchild today, 50% chance of living to be 150 years old. That's pretty crazy. So stay young. Bye.